Hello, good morning. You're very, very welcome. My name is Keith Finlayson. I'm the Practice Director in Storm Technology in the area of data analytics. And again, you're very welcome to today's webinar. And today's topic is Enterprise Information Management. Just some housekeeping rules. Today's session is actually being recorded and it'll be available on our website in the coming days. So to go through the agenda, so I'm very pleased to have Ronan Gavin on the line with us today, and Ronan is a solution lead in the application platform area within Microsoft in Ireland. So Ronan will be doing an introduction in a few moments. I'll then go through a very brief Storm overview and then into a definition of enterprise information management. I'll then go through some use cases. And the use cases, I'll go into a little bit of detail on some scenarios that we've seen with our customers. And really, these are examples, hopefully, that you have either seen in your own business or that you can relate to. And the general idea is to make the concept of enterprise information management real and to really show how it can be used to solve issues that companies face on a day-to-day basis. I'll be then handing over to my colleague, Ian Mead, who will go into some of the tools available within the Microsoft stack. We'll drill in a little bit into the relationship between enterprise information management and business intelligence. We'll go through people and processes, and then a demo of one of the tools, data quality services, and then questions and answers at the end, okay? So most people are probably familiar with GoToWebinar, but there is a question pane, hopefully, that you can see within your control panel, so feel free to type in the questions at any point, and then we'll gather them all up at the end and go through them, okay? So I guess without further ado, I'll hand over to Ronan. Ronan, would you like to say a few words, please? Can you... Sorry, Ronan, you were muted there for a second. You may need to start again. Apologies for that. Hi, Ronan. Sorry, can you hear us okay? Okay. So Ronan is actually speaking, guys, but unfortunately we're having some technical issues here. We just can't seem to hear him at the moment.
Now, can people hear me okay?
Okay, there you go, Ronan. Sorry about that. How are things?
Yeah, great. No, that's fine. Good morning, everybody. So thanks, Keith, for inviting me along. What I'm going to talk just very briefly today, just to give my own experiences in some of the key topics that I see coming up time and time again. I work across a lot of organizations, working with some big organizations around enterprise information management, BI, and I thought I'd share some of the key things that I've seen and some of the key advices I get. Now, the interactions I have would range from IT to sales and marketing to CFOs, and I might share a couple of perspectives from CFOs that I work with as well, because it's quite interesting. And to kind of to consolidate it down, because there's so many different perspectives on it, but there's kind of three key topics that come up time and time again on BI initiatives and enterprise BI, as I call it, across organizations. The first one being is around data accuracy and availability. You cannot get away from that. And the reason why this is such an important topic, and I'm delighted, Keith, that you and Ian are covering it today, is that one of the big traps that I see organizations need to make sure they avoid, and this is really collaboration between IT and the business, is that you can get a devolved responsibility between the business and IT on data accuracy and integrity, and who actually owns that data governance and that data integrity. And it's very important, and the process around maintaining that. So that's something that is very important to always have at the forefront of mind when you're talking about data accuracy and availability. So Second two things that I thought is worth mentioning in terms of the key topics that come up time and time again, and I know Keith, you and Ian are going to touch on it, is around the end user adoption and the familiarity with desktop tools that are used. So really what the business people are looking for is make it easy for me, but don't oversimplify. So allow me to synthesize data into information and make it in a way that we can actually use it. And that is such an important topic to have forefront of the mind, particularly if you want to standardize an enterprise information management solution, because it is always a big challenge for organizations to get multiple business stakeholders to standardize on something they can use. Now, from a Microsoft perspective, we've invested hugely in this topic around the desktop, and we look at it from a perspective of we've over 300 million users of Excel, and we've added a lot of the data visualization and self-service BI right up to the desktop. And so it's something just to bear in mind. The third thing then is that really drives the real inherent value in getting enterprise information management correct is around collaboration. So it's great to have business people who can build some really good visualizations around what business insight is really happening, but really it's around how that can be collaborated into different business units to turn it into actionable insight. That's really where the value curve for organizations goes to another level again. So that's really where the business, it's a really good question for IT people when they're asked to provision services for the business, is to get the business to think about what will business outcome, what business benefit will this drive for you. To give an example, in Microsoft ourselves, we have a weighted questionnaire, so our global BI operations, when they have a new requirement to the business to deliver a BI capability, we have a weighted questionnaire where the business actually have to define and score and prioritize and weight the business outcome and the business benefit that's going to accrue from their business by having a new capability. And that's really useful when you've got multiple business stakeholders and you're trying to get to prioritize, because if you put the ownership of the business outcome and the business benefit on delivery capability, then you can actually manage and prioritize in a much more transparent and objective way. So it helps take some of the subjectivity out of provisioning services for the business. So really, from my perspective, giving the business stakeholders the power to create an action business insight, I think is very important. The interesting thing is that I think the role of IT is really fundamentally can be redefined to that of data governance and data stewardship, and that a lot more of the self-service capability can be given to the business. And there's a lot, it's managing that agility and control between business and IT, because IT has a very important role to manage the governance of the data. I think it's really important from a business perspective to sit down with the business when you're looking at data accuracy and availability, and I know the guys are going to cover some really important topic around master data and data quality, and some of the capabilities are there. It's a really important topic, and I'm delighted to be able to listen in and join the call today. Keith, I'll hand back to you.
Okay, that's
That's
great, Ron. Thanks a million for that. Many very valuable points mentioned by Ronan in a short period of time there, and hopefully we can expand out on some of them in this webinar, and then maybe in future conversations with each of you we can expand that out as well, okay?
Alright, so we just go to the...
So just to go through the agenda, we've gone through now with Ronan having the introduction. So the Storm overview then in relation to the company that's on this at the moment. So really in relation to data analytics, we specialize within 3 strands within the data analytics practice. The first one being around BI strategy and implementation. So really advising companies on their overall strategy in relation to business intelligence and right away down to the implementation of that strategy. We kind of specialize within the data analysis and data modeling piece, so really looking at customers' data and helping them understand what that data can be used for and the business benefits that can be derived from that data. And then a very, very important piece that Ronan alluded to was user adoption, and that really has to do with the very rich reporting and visualization capabilities that are now available within the Microsoft stack, and especially around self-service BI and tools like Excel and the capabilities that those tools have. Within the rest of the organization, we have a very strong SharePoint and project server team within the information worker practice. So again, it's very complementary to a lot of the work that the SharePoint guys have been doing for many years in Storm. So SharePoint can be used very much as a container or a window in relation to a lot of these reports, and it acts very, very well in that capacity. Customer relationship management, again, all around Salesforce automation and marketing automation. And again, Enterprise Application Platform is a group that specializes within custom software development and really has in-depth capabilities in the integration space and a lot of capabilities around SQL Server as well as one of the main tools for that application platform. We're 18 years in business, Microsoft Gold Partner, which is a very strong endorsement of our capabilities. We've many gold competencies, as you can see at the bottom of this slide. And we have a team at the moment of 80 plus IT professionals with very, very deep technical product knowledge on the Microsoft stack. And last slide on Storm, we operate across many different verticals ranging from financial services through to public sector and commercial. Okay, so let's get stuck into this. So always good to start with a definition. So the definition of enterprise information management, I actually took the one from Microsoft. So it's around providing a portfolio of solutions that enable organizations to trust the credibility and consistency of their data so that they can make critical business decisions. And those two words, credible and consistent, will just keep coming up again and again and again as we talk about enterprise information management. But really it's around the tools and processes so that the information necessary for organization success is available, correct, complete, and usable. So really it is about the credible data, the consistent data, and making it available so people can actually leverage it for their business benefit. I always like to ask myself when somebody introduces a topic or a new topic, is there actually a problem here? And several studies have shown that, yes, there is a problem. I picked out one here from Information Week. It's just an example of a report, but all of these reports show when you're looking at the barriers to enterprise-wide business intelligence or analytics, what is the biggest threat to adoption? And that is, again and again, it comes out as data quality problems. So in this particular example, for the 2 years mentioned, it was 46% and 55%, but any of these reports will say the same, that data quality is the biggest barrier to enterprise-wide business intelligence initiatives. But it's actually more than that. We're kind of focusing on business intelligence during this webinar, but in relation to general IT adoption and general information management success, a similar theme emerges. What are the biggest impediments? It's around relevant, timely, reliable information. It's around integrating your data. It's around cleansing and deduping and ensuring consistent data. That's the message that we're hearing from our customers, and it's backed up by some of this empirical research again, okay? So this is just to prove, I guess, the obvious, which is when you get it right, the benefits are there. So the top 20% of performers in relation to company performance, had 91% of their master data complete and accurate, whereas the bottom 30% had under 50% of their master data complete and accurate. And then a second stat that's showing here is around, how many hours per week each employee spends searching for information. And I'm sure everybody on the call this morning can relate to this. If the data is not consistent, if it's not reliable, if it's not structured correctly, that number of hours per week wasted searching for information just increases. And this is not acting. This is not leveraging the benefit. This is just finding the data. Okay. We'll go into more detail in relation to the tool set, but just to, I think it's beneficial at this point just to mention them in passing. So really, it's within the SQL Server camp within Microsoft, and the first one we're looking at would be data quality services, which is pretty self-explanatory. It's about improving data quality, but there's tools within that for data cleansing, matching, deduplication. We move on then to master data services, which is a set of tools and processes used to create and maintain consistent and accurate master data lists. And then integration services can be used for moving and manipulating data. But from the point of view of EIM, it can also be used for automating many of the EIM tools mainly master data services and data quality services. So really there's a story within the SQL Server camp for all of your EIM needs. And this slide really is just to re-emphasize the importance of data quality and consistency. Really it's at the base of any serious business intelligence initiative. So once you get your data quality and consistency correct, you can then flow nicely into your data warehouse or your cubes or reporting and then out into the end user for them to consume. But the bedrock of all of this is data quality and consistency. Okay, so I'm going to spend a few minutes going through some use cases. These are examples where we've seen on our own customer sites of issues that our customers have been grappling with that enterprise information management could be used to help them. So the first one here is multiple customer sets. So, you know, many companies have multiple lists of customers that can, you know, and they can contain duplication, overlapping gaps. And there's many reasons for this. You know, mergers, acquisitions. Each part of the organization could implement its own system, either by function. So, for example, you could have a customer in a CRM system for sales. You could have an account system for invoicing, and you could have another for service or product delivery, or it could be split by product line. So an example we've seen in the banking sector, you could have an application for mortgages, another for credit cards, another for deposits. You could have your point solutions. And it's sometimes manageable when organizations are small, but once they get larger, it becomes incredibly complex. And just to put some figures on this, we've seen organizations of 40 or 50 employees where this has become unmanageable. So we're not really talking about very large organizations here. It's important to get this right very early on to enable the growth of the organizations. So what problems does multiple customer sets give you then? I mean, you probably have seen some of these within your own organizations perhaps, but there's potentially poor customer service, extensive exposure to the customer. Definitely we've seen lost opportunities for cross-selling and upselling by not having that complete view of the customer, and difficulty in focusing sales and services resources in the correct places. And indeed, there could be legal and regulatory issues as well. So EIM can be used to identify these duplicates and, again, help building that single customer view, that single version of the truth that can be reliable and consistent. Another use case is incomplete product sets. So most production systems record the information necessary for that production system, but there's other information necessary as well, or that may be useful to the organization. So an example we've seen is a retail system having a product code and price, but its category, color, you know, supplier, cost details, there was loads of information left behind. And EIM can store this information required by the business that is not stored anywhere. The same entity existing in several systems. So this is similar to the customer issue mentioned earlier, but sometimes the same details are required in numerous systems, and sometimes the full details are not stored anywhere indeed. So a branch, for example, is a place where employees work. It's also a stock keeping location. It's also an asset that needs to be valued and insured. And EIM can help reduce the effort required to manage the systems by removing the multiple data entry in each system, reducing the risk of inconsistencies, and it can also be used to map the entity to connect the various systems together. So again, we're back to that complete view, that single view. Transient data. So production systems, almost by their definition, store details for a short period of time, and the current details are stored, and quite often historic details are lost. So quite often people put in, you know, data warehousing solutions to capture this historic data, but again, several organizations that we've seen have not done that, and that historic data has been just lost forever. You know, so people within HR systems, where the roles, location, and job title change over time, or in a very common one that we see is special offers or campaigns in retail systems. You know, they're just deleted when the offer is finished and there's no record of what was done before. EIM can provide a permanent store for this transient data. And details that are missing are indeed invalid details. So we've seen details that were optional in the past that are now required for a variety of reasons. So maybe only required for a subset of items, but a production system treat all data items as optional, or the production system cannot be changed easily, which is quite often the case. So EIM can add additional levels of validation to existing and new data and help manage the process to enrich invalid details. And this one we see quite a lot of actually. It's around managing complex processes. So managing the interaction of complex processes that cover multiple systems and multiple teams. So an example we gave here is that the marketing department defines a new offer. A set of customers must be selected. These customers are sent correspondence, either letters about the offer, etc. Then the customers are contacted through a telephone dialing system. And the acceptance is quite often recorded in a line of business application, and all of that effort is in a HR system. So as you can see, that goes across multiple processes within multiple teams and multiple systems. And EIM has capabilities around workflows and emails to ensure that the different teams are on the same page as the data changes and evolves. And a very, very nice feature is that EIM can ensure that the changes have the appropriate sign-off before implementation. So there's that workflow element to the stack as well. And the reality quite often is that several of these problems exist at the same time. So the customer exists in multiple systems, the address and the contact details are missing or they're incorrect. There's no details for the customer segment. And the sales may sell a service, but the service isn't delivered, as the service department has not been informed. So that breakdown in communication between teams and departments within an organization. And again, just to mention several of these problems, it's very, very common to see that in an organization. So really, there are some use cases. You may relate to some of them, you may relate to none of them, but at least they may get you thinking in relation to problems that may exist within your own organizations. So why do we need data quality services? And yes, that is an on-purpose typo there. Just to put some reality in relation to just very, very simple, here's a very, very simple table. How can this possibly go wrong? And yet there's at least 4 problems that we can see with this table as it currently stands. So on the first row, for example, the county is missing for the first record. So there's an issue around completeness. On the first record again, Main Street is spelled incorrectly, Dunleary is spelled incorrectly, Side Lane is spelled incorrectly. So there's an issue around accuracy. There's an issue around conformity on the date field, 2 different date formats there. And there's a problem around consistency. So Jane Doe being male, for example. So after you use some EIM techniques and tools, this is what hopefully you will be left with, where all of these issues have been resolved. And as you can imagine, moving forward from this second data set is much easier than moving forward from the first data set, both in relation to reporting and integrating with other systems to provide meaningful data. Okay. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to hand over to my colleague Ian Mead, who's a data architect within the Storm Group, and he's going to go through some of the tools, and he's also going to go through a demo of one of the major tools within the stack, and that is data quality services. So I'll hand over to yourself, Ian. Thanks.
Hello everybody. I'm going to start by going through the tools. The first of the tools we look at is Master Data Services, which manages master data. Master data is a little bit of a confusing concept to some people, but basically a master data is a list of the important things used by an organization, and these master data lists include things like people, places, and concepts, and these can be customers, employees, products, locations, and stuff like discount rules. So these are the types of things that are managed by master data. And your master data service is a set of tools and processes used to create and manage these consistent master data lists, which the business needs to keep functioning properly. So it's important to remember with master data, though, that the business process is more important than the technology. And another thing is, you don't just get master data corrected once. You need to continually work at it over time and maintain it over time. And once you get your master data correct, your master data list can be integrated into your applications. They can be pushed into application databases early in the process, or they can be used for cross-references for applications to verify quality. Okay. Inside the actual tool set itself, you have a database that's stored in SQL Server. It's important it's stored in a database because it allows it to be accessible and used by different applications. And add-in for Excel. Also, it's important that you have the add-in Excel So it makes it easy for a lot of people in the organization, the business users, to get at the information and to manage it themselves without going through IT too much. You got some master data manager, which allows you to configure and control your master data structures. Integration services, which is another of the components that we'll be looking at a little bit later on. And we've got configuration deployment tools, which push everything out into the organization. The next major one would be data quality services. And the whole objective of data quality services is improving data quality. So there's a bit of a hint in the name. And you got tools in this area for data cleansing. And data cleansing is just looking at a bad data source and improving it. Tools for matching and deduplication, where you got something like the same customer in multiple data sets. The matching and deduplication can help you to remove those issues. You can also use reference matching, where you have an online store, say maybe addresses or counties or company information that you can access from the internet. You got a profiling tool to allow you to look at your data and see how good your data is at the moment and what are the issues. Monitoring tools as well, which as you have a data quality project on the flow, it helps you to work out, is this going well, is our data improving? And what's very important is the knowledge base. The knowledge base is basically the core of the data quality services, and the important thing about this is owned by and controlled and built by the business users. And it's something we'll look at in a lot more detail when we get to the demo, but the whole idea is that the business users define the rules and what's important for their business. Okay, in data quality services, the important thing is it's your business, it's your data, so the solution to your problems is owned by the business users. The business user builds the knowledge base, which evolves over time, and the knowledge base is literally the cornerstone of data quality services. And your production data is assessed against the business rules, and you can do things like just validate and prove it's correct. Sometimes you're not actually going to change your data, but you need to tell your regulators that you have correct data and you know it's correct, so you can use data quality services to get that assessment. Or what it can do is reject bad information and suggest an improvement, or sometimes it just rejects it and you need manual changes. If it's rejected and there's manual changes, that change is learned and improved and incorporated into the knowledge base, and which becomes a continual process, so you should see improvement over time. In the toolset is quite similar to master data services. You got the database and SQL as well. You also use some of the MDS master data service add-in for Excel. You got the data quality services client, which does a lot of administration stuff, and also a lot of interactive bits and pieces which are run as you're designing your data quality knowledge bases. You have integration services again, and deployment and configuration tools. The next tool in the toolbox is integration services. Integration services is one of Microsoft's bigger tools. It's the ETL, extract, transform, and load tool used for building databases and data warehouses and data marts and moving data around. And all the EIM tools are integrated into that, which means that your business users can use tools like the MDS Excel add-in and data quality services client to define the problem, to define the solution, and then developers can build SSIS packages using integration services to get it out into the application and into the business. We're not going to cover integration services in a great deal of detail today. Okay. Once we've looked at the individual tools themselves, it's important to see how we actually use them in an organization. Master data services and data quality services are very much interrelated. What will often happen is you have a master list, customer set is a master list, it's managed by master data services, but also you want to be sure that you got all the information you need about your customers. So that same list is also managed by data quality services at the same time. You'll find as well in your data quality services, it may have a lookup list. Going back to the customer set, you may want an industry vertical assigned with each customer, and your master data services will maintain this list of industry verticals. Data quality services will verify that each customer has been associated with one of these verticals. Okay, so there's a lot of interaction, interdependency with the two tools, the master data services and data quality services. What's also important is you want to have your master data services for a lot of reasons. As we mentioned before, it's pretty much a prerequisite for a BI project. Your data availability and quality needs to be assessed early in a BI project, and it can be a no-go if your data quality isn't good enough. Also, your master data, there's always gaps in master data that need to be found and addressed as part of doing a BI project. So Microsoft considers these tools to be part of the BI larger BI tool set, but at the same time, they're not just used for BI, they're used throughout an organization independently of a BI solution to support your line of business applications and your basic business processes. Okay, and when we mention processes, it's important to remember it's all about people and processes. The tools that we look at, they're good and they enable you, but really it's about the people and the processes, and they must be involved and central all the time. The people who generally do most of the work in the EIM space are the data stewards, and these data stewards are responsible for making sure the data is usable, consistent and reliable, and they need a good understanding of the business, but also an appreciation of the technical problems of the data and representing the data. And we just mentioned Power BI is another tool for Microsoft aimed at this set of people. And in Power BI, what they do is they do reports and data sets and then they publish them up to enable reporting throughout the organization. Okay, so continue with people and processes. It's very important that a virtuous cycle is established. And basically by its nature, master data is going to continue to change. If your data set never changes, you probably won't bother putting it into master data. So you need to continually manage it and make sure it's correct. So you need checks and balances to continue to make sure things are correct and automate a lot of your components so that your DQS and MDS run all the time and your data is continually improved and corrected. Okay, so after looking at the tools, we're going to spend the rest of the time looking at a demo, and the demo will show us a lot of information about some stuff built on top of DQS and MDS. Okay, the first thing we start off with is a report, a fairly simple report. What this report uses is a product structure, and the product structure is built in master data services. So if we look at these as categories, subcategories, and product items, they're not defined anywhere in the system. So what we do is there's master data to manage that. For this one here, what we're going to do with master data is just move it to a different category. So we can open up Excel. And most of the work that you'll end up doing with master data services is done directly in Excel. And we've pulled down from Excel the product structure. We have the categories, the product subcategories, and the products. And against the product, we have a lot of extra information. And what we're going to do is for a product subcategory, we're going to find the product that we're looking at, the subcategory we're looking at. And we use Excel to do all of this stuff. It's the same as any standard piece of Excel. So this is the subcategory we're looking at. What we want to do is move it into a different category. And what's exciting about this is this has all been done inside of Excel. You haven't waited for IT to build administration screens and get them tested. If you want to add extra entities, they can be configured with master data services. So it allows the business to be quite dynamic in what they want to manage and how they want to manage it. You also have, when you select a product category, there's a drop down to make sure you're only picking valid and correct values. And what you can do with Excel is you can take it offline, spend a couple of weeks maybe to get your information right. When you have it right, you can publish it back up to master data services. And this is where a lot of the good stuff happens with master data services. It goes from being managed by the business to now being managed by IT. So it has all the auditability, traceability, all of that type of good functionality you need built in, and it's available and accessible throughout the business. So that's now being published up and it's been incorporated into the master data. So the next time somebody looks at anything at the product structure, they'll get the correct information. Okay. The next tool we're going to look at is spend a bit of time on data quality services. Data quality services is normally managed by the data quality client, which is what the tool we're looking at here. The core of what you want to do with data quality services is define knowledge bases. And we'll just open up a knowledge base to give you a better idea what that means. A knowledge base is a set of rules that the business has defined for its domain. And this knowledge base has units of measure. The units of measure will have the size and the weight. And in the size and the weight, we've defined what's valid for a size and for a weight. There's a few different ways we can set it. We can pull it from a reference data, we can have a set of rules, or we can have a set of values that we've explicitly entered. So if we go back to the size, we have values and we say that cm for centimeter and feet is valid, inches is valid. But also important is centimeter, the word centimeter, that's a known invalid value. So what we can define is if we find this in our data, we can automatically convert it to cm. cm and a full stop, we can also convert that to cm. So what happens is if we get a data set and we find information that is invalid, is unknown, we can automatically correct it. We can also have an activity where we look for new values. Anytime we find a new value we don't expect, we can add it into the knowledge base. Okay, so we define our knowledge base. And when we have our knowledge base defined, the next thing we can do is we can do a data quality project which uses a knowledge base. So if we look at this project here, what this project has been defined to do is it opens data from a file, an Excel file supplied by a customer, and we've mapped up the size and the weight into that. And what we're going to do is we're going to do first off a profiling exercise. And the profiling exercise will help us to determine how good the information is. Okay. What we're actually going to do is create a new project from scratch, because I did a bit of testing with that earlier. And we're going to use the unit of measure. And when this is set up, we can go in and we can pick a source. In this test case, we're using an Excel file, which comes from a customer base. Hopefully we'll find this in a minute. Okay, this is a new file that comes down from a customer, and it has a lot of information which is similar but not quite the same as ours. So what we're going to do is find the customer size and the weight that comes from the customer. Okay. And in the production system, this file comes down every night, and we want to do some translation to it to make sure that it matches ours. So the first thing we do is we do a bit of profiling on this, and based on the profiling, we can see the number of records we have. We see most of this is complete. We got entries for most of the sizes and the weights. We got some accuracy issues. So what we'll do next is we can go in and look at the actual information. So looking at, say, the size, we should see if we look at the weight, we see a number of corrected items. We see grams GM has been corrected to grams, GMS has been corrected to grams as well. We see a new entry that we haven't seen before, 1B, we don't know what it is. Because we know the data, we know that's probably pounds. So what we could do is when we find this invalid entry, we could add into here pounds. And this becomes added to the knowledge base. So the next time this is seen, it's improved and corrected for us. And what we can also do is we can get the data that we've just corrected and we can export it into Excel or onto a database. We'll stick it into Excel at the moment and into this file, and we keep the data and the cleansing information, and we can export that. And when that's exported, we can then go and open this in Excel. And we can see what we've actually done to this. Okay, just a few seconds, and we go and we find this information. So this is the data that we just corrected. This is the original information coming in, and we have the pound there, and it's not being corrected. It's marked as a new value that we haven't seen before. And we have other ones like, say, pound here, that's been corrected to pounds. So that allows us to build our knowledge base over time and to improve our data and our data sets. The last thing we'll look at is an integration services package that brings everything together. We mentioned earlier that the integration services, they need to be developed by the developer towards the end of the process to actually move the information between the different applications. What this will do, we won't look into it in much detail, but what it does is it runs a file through DQS, the knowledge base that we just looked at, updates the master data, then reloads the information behind that report that we looked at earlier. So if we start this, this will run, and this type of package is normally automated to run overnight and keeps everything up and running and keeps things on track. So when this is finished, we can go back to the report and we should see that the data moves to the new location. And give it another few seconds. Okay, it looks like the VM is a little slow today, but when this comes back, we can just refresh this report and we'll see the data has been incorporated. Yeah. Okay, so that's basically an overview of what master data does for you and data quality services and how they can be linked. Okay, so the next question is, any questions from anybody in the audience? No?
Sorry, in relation to the bootcamp, it's run by Ian himself. So Ian, just to give him a shout out, is a SQL Server Master. And just to put that in context, there's only 2 of them in Ireland, and I believe only about 100 or 150 of them worldwide. So we really only charge a nominal fee for this bootcamp. So if you want some very, very top-notch training from some very qualified people to give you an overview of the Microsoft stack, then that is a day well spent, I think, and we've got very good feedback on that. We also run some quick starts. These are approved Microsoft programs. They can be 3 or 5 days. And again, very, very good feedback from these. What happens in the Quick Start program is we discuss some sample data sets with you. And again, we go through the stack, but really you end up with something that works at the end of it. It could only be a proof of concept, but we're working with you on your own data. The interesting point about this is that some planning services days, if anybody has those available, can be used to pay for these Quick Start programs. So again, if you need more details on that, please feel free to contact me. But again, it's a very, very quick and real way of getting your BI implementation up and running. Very, very powerful when you go back to your HQ with a solution that actually provides real value to your business. And again, any individual sessions that you need, feel free to contact us. So we run events, webinars usually on the last Thursday of every month. So really, really good to see so many people joining today that have been at our previous webinar. So thank you for joining us again. So just to give you a sample of some of the future webinars that are coming up. The next one is at the end of February, and it's around how to run a successful BI project. So we'll really be sharing some of the secret sauce that we've learned over the years in Storm about what really makes a successful BI project and how to deliver and run a successful BI project. So if that's of interest to you, please join us at the end of February for that. Future ones after that, Power BI, Power Pivot, Excel for analysts is a very popular. Excel as running from Microsoft, and Ian has alluded, it's getting it always has been an incredibly powerful tool, but some of the new features that Microsoft are putting into it really is beefing up the capabilities beyond what anybody probably had thought possible a few years ago. So we find on a regular basis that a lot of people we talk to are not aware of these capabilities that they have at their fingertips. So Excel on a fairly average laptop can achieve so much now for your business, and this event will cover some of those features. SQL Server 2014, we're going to go through what's new in that, data warehousing, predictive analytics, and real-time reporting. So everybody thinks they need real-time reporting, but if they do, it causes many, many issues in relation to how that is actually achieved. So we'll be going through some of the approaches that you can take to achieving that for your business. So if there's no questions, really all that remains from me is just to say thank you for attending today's webinar. Hopefully we have shown you how enterprise information management solutions provided by Microsoft and SQL Server can be used to underpin and support your BI strategy and enable you to trust the credibility and consistency of your data so you can make critical business decisions. So again, it's all about credibility and consistency of the data, and these tools can be used to really derive tremendous business value once you get those two right. So again, very, very thanks for the questions. And last opportunity for any questions out there. We will open the mics now if anybody wants to have any questions. Again, if there's any questions at all, feel free to contact me at my email address, and we will get back to you on a one-to-one basis. But all that remains now is one final thank you, and we'll see you again next time. Thanks a lot.